They're anxious to get to their holiday.
Sorry, you guys.
So, Mr. Steyer, you talked about Allison King with NBC Boston. Nice to see
Allison,
you again.
nice to see you.
You joked sort of about being billionaire Tom Steyer, and changing your name. But how much of a problem is it for you to have that attached to your name so much as you campaign?
Look, my goal in all of this is to explain who I really am. And so, I have to introduce myself to people because I'm not a famous person. And so I think it's just part of the experience is for people to actually, that's why I try and talk a little bit about my family. So I can give people a sense of I am not this two-dimensional person who is just, who they might think I am, that I'm actually somebody who has a family that has a long commitment to social justice and giving back to the United States, some of the benefits we've all gotten from the United States.
Is it a challenge? I mean, does it keep people from voting for you that you need to?
Look, I think most people in the United States actually think that succeeding is a good thing and that starting your own business from scratch is a good thing. And so I don't feel it's a negative. I just want to make sure that people understand it's not the sum and total substance of who I am, that there's a lot more to me than somebody who started a business and grew it. It's something I did and I'm not ashamed of it at all. And I think most Americans, have we given up on the idea of success? Not as far as I know. Americans like to succeed and win. So do I.
Mr. Steyer, you spoke about the opioid epidemic, and I'm just curious specifically in terms of your policy stance, if you believe in safe needle exchanges
Yes.
and safe houses.
I do.
Tell me why.
Look, my opinion about this is we should be treating it as a health issue, and we should be supporting people and trying to make sure that they get back on their feet. And that's one of the ways we can do to try and keep them safe and help them get back on their feet.
And you were on the debate stage the other day when folks were going back and forth about fundraising. I wonder if you think there should be a cap on how much a candidate can spend personally and pour into their own campaign.
Look, I haven't thought about it. I'm for public financing of campaigns. I actually have been thinking about it, and I've been thinking the way that the House bill reads, HR 1 is a 6 times match up to $200 of contribution. I actually think the idea of giving people vouchers to contribute to political campaigns brings a whole bunch of more people into the mix, and I'd actually be in favor of that, and that's actually where I think we should go. Public financing of campaigns.
Let's stick with fundraising, because you were on the stage when Elizabeth Warren went after Pete Buttigieg for wine caves, and that's all anybody talked about. But now we're learning that from an AP report, that she had her own fundraiser at a winery. I'm just wondering, do you think she was being a little disingenuous when she took on Buttigieg with that attack?
I didn't really understand it. Look, what I tried to say on that stage, Paul, consistently was the real thing we need to do is beat Donald Trump. We should be talking about how we're going to do that. And, I don't think the way that we're going to do that is by tearing each other down. So to a large extent, to me, the question, which I asked Pete Buttigieg on stage, is why don't you have a better climate stance? You're 37 years old. You're of a generation of people who understand this is the number one issue in front of us. Why aren't you stronger on climate? That, to me, is an absolutely critical question for him to answer. So I've tried to stick to the things that I think really, really matter and that haven't been answered. And so I'm on a different, I'm pushing a different way.
Did you feel like you got a good answer from him?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he responded to it really directly at all. I think that's a fact. So look, to me, there are real questions here, and I've tried to make it clear that what we need to do is be going directly to the American people about what we think matters, how their lives are going to be better, why we are the actual better answer. That's what and that's why I was talking about teamwork. We have to beat Mr. Trump, and we have to do it by actually having better answers for the American people.
Mr. Steyer, could you speak a little bit to election security and processes that you're looking to implement to better protect our election systems? Is it a concern for you?
Well, of course, it's a concern for everybody in the United States. In terms of, and it's a concern on 2 levels. I think your question is asking me about being hacked by foreign countries, and it's obvious that this administration is welcoming hacking from foreign countries because they believe it will be on their behalf, and that is obviously ridiculously improper and unconstitutional and illegal. But there's also the question about the attempt to strip the voter files of people in red states. There's been a consistent attempt to purge people who would otherwise vote and who they think would vote Democratic. And so when you talk about election security, we are talking about an administration that's not doing what it can to protect our election system because they think that the hacking will be on their behalf. And we're also looking at a Republican Party that is consistently, on an organized fashion, trying to take away the right to vote from African Americans and young people. And we're in New Hampshire right now. New Hampshire passed a law to try and restrict the voting of college students from out of state who live in New Hampshire. We're seeing it consistently. So we're trying to push back, but the United States government needs to protect us against the, cyber warfare of hostile foreign countries.
You talk a lot about term limits, but under the Constitution, the president can't do that alone. What are your plans on how to make that happen?
Look, the first thing that has to happen is for the people of the United States to decide together through the presidential election process of what's important. So I'm talking about what I think the thing is that's gone wrong in the United States, which is that corporations have bought the government. And I'm trying to talk about some of the solutions, which include term limits, 12 years for Congress, people, and senators, and also direct democracy, letting people pass our own laws. I understand that all of those have processes, constitutional processes, that are lengthy. But the difference is this. Really this election is about trying to frame how the America works. Mr. Trump has a framework. In my mind, it's a cruel and racist framework. But he is going to make the case for how he thinks America works and how it should work. We have to make a different case. And part of that is to say, which I firmly believe, that this government is broken and it's been purchased by corporations, and here's an answer. So in fact, the actual steps of getting there are significant, as you know, and you're referring to them, but that's not the point of the presidential election. The point of the presidential election is to determine that the people will us to break this corporate stranglehold, and we'll go after it right after that, with the will of the people at our back. So this election is really about defining the problem and pointing out the solution, and then we go get it.
Okay, last question.
How is it that you seem to know so many people in this New Hampshire audience?
Well, first of all, I went to high school in New Hampshire. And second of all,
Which one?
I went to Exeter.
Oh.
And second of all, I've been to New Hampshire. We've been organizing in New Hampshire at NextGen since the beginning of 2014. So I've been coming here to go onto college campuses, to talk to activists, to register people and go door to door in New Hampshire for, 6 years? And so if you do that, you meet a lot of Democrats. It was an absolute treat to run into the son of one of my father's absolute best friends, whose dad and his uncle were incredibly nice guys, who's been running, it was the guy I referred to, who's been running a summer camp in Hebron, New Hampshire for 22 years, which is exactly what I would expect, doing a really valuable, fun thing to do to help other people. Vin Broderick, what a sweetheart, what a great guy. So if you travel around the country, I'm not kidding, you meet so many nice people and it's fun to see them again. That's really all that was going on.
Mr. Steyer, many countries have starvable taxes, but later ended it. What makes you think it'll work in the United States?
Well, I think the United States has had 40 years of redistribution of wealth. And we have a wealth tax, which is really the real estate tax, that homeowner. So I understand that there are some issues about implementation, but the question really here is something has happened that no one's talked about, which has been an accumulation of wealth by the richest people at the expense of everybody else. That's shocking. And so this is something that I think if you really want to look at inequality in our country, we do need to look at inequality in terms of income, but in terms of assets, it's truly shocking. And it's something that's absolutely distorting to our society. So I think that this is not something I take lightly. I mean, I understand, once again, that the actual process of getting it is complicated, but when you look at our society and think about the distribution of money, if you actually look at it, it curls your hair and you understand that isn't justice, that isn't an equal society. There's something really wrong there and we need to redress it.
Okay, Tom, we gotta roll.
You
Thanks, guys.
have
Thank
a
you very
wonderful
much.
holiday. I was telling the truth. This should be an incredibly fun and joyous season for all of us. So let's try and do that if we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steyer.
Tom, this way.
Pleasure. Nice to see you guys.